Later this week, I'm going to a place slightly more hostile than New York City. Hollywood, California, which I'm planning on spending zero time in if I can help it, and just hang out at that very comfortable place, Los Angeles, California, later this week in California. We're in New York, and we're talking. I was just speaking to Barbara, where are you from, Barbara? Florida, right?
I winter in Florida. I live in Dix Hills on Long Island.
Wow. All right, so Barbara said to me earlier that she started a group of seniors or retirees, and I started telling the story that just recently I was trying to think of our country and say, okay, what are our resources? What are the resources that we have? And the first thing that came to mind is the enormous mental and physical capacity that is sitting idle right now on a golf course. And we must ask, let me just do it. I'm asking the seniors, I'm asking you if you're retired, what the hell are you doing on a golf course? What are you doing? I know you've worked your whole life for it and you deserve the time off. I get it. But the country's on fire and you're the one that can help. You built the country, you served in wars, you built companies, you taught school, you raised a family, you raised grandchildren. I mean, what haven't you done? We're gonna go to somebody who's 15 years old and figure this out? You think of the collective years of knowledge that is sitting idle right now, waiting to what? Get another tea time? To walk around in big goofy shorts? I want to ask you this question. There are a lot of parents that are having to work 2 jobs. And there are a lot of parents, I talk to them all the time, they're like, I'd like to homeschool my kids, but I don't have the time. I don't have the time. I can't. We can't. I understand that. And it's really huge. But let me tell you something. My grandparents, Ed and Clara Jansen, my grandfather had a 4th grade education. My grandmother, she made it all the way, but Grandpa had to go to work. And some of my best memories as a kid are spending the days at their farm. There is nothing better than spending time with your grandparents. Will you consider homeschooling your grandchildren? Picking it up as a project. It will give you purpose and new life. And I promise you that if you teach the things, who thinks here we have a problem with education in this country? Okay, who thinks it's getting better? Yeah. The answer to our problems is knowing correct history, is knowing what's true. And they're not teaching that. They're not teaching critical thinking. They're teaching obedience. They're not teaching what the skills that your grandkids are going to need to be able to rebuild this country are lost. Once we lose your knowledge, it's gone. So please, I'm asking you, what's your website, Barbara?
It's 912superseniors.org.
Just crash that website. Reach out to Barbara, reach out to each other, just reach out to your family. I know it is a huge thing, but I'm telling you, it will be the best decision of your life. The best decision. I get calls all the time from people on radio who say, Glenn, I don't know what to do. My kids are going to school and they're learning this insane stuff. And there's the test scores. All they do is prepare for tests over and over and over again. It's not about dates. It's not about tests. It's about knowledge and how to find the answers. It's really not even about the answers all the time. It's how to find them and think out of the box. Back in a second.
Networks, twice the power.
America is in trouble. The government is slowly killing the Constitution and forgetting what makes us great.
Your personal freedoms are on the line. Overregulation is strangling small business, trampling on the American dream.
So I ask you, do we work for the government, or does the government work for us?
My job? Safeguarding your rights.
2 networks.
solving America's problems.
Fox News, the power to inform. Fox Business, the power to prosper.
Welcome back to the program. Jennifer, you were in London, England, and you saw a disturbing trend there that I gather you're fearful is coming here.
Yes, really about a culture of compassion sort of devolving into a culture of dependency. I had the opportunity while I lived in London for 3 years to be a volunteer mentor to a 10-year-old girl, really bright, feisty, smart little girl. She and her parents lived entirely on welfare. And what I saw and what was so shocking and disturbing to me is how damaging it can be for a child to grow up in such a culture of dependency. It really robbed her of any kind of dreams or hopes or motivation to seek out a life any better than what she had, and really her fate was sealed.
Well, when you say seek out a better life than she had, what do you mean? What was she doing?
Well, you know, when I look at her role models, her family, her friends, everybody that she grew up with, you know, just as I go to work and I provide for my family, her family would go to work by working the system. That's all they knew. That's what they grew up with themselves. So their whole lives were about, how can I get a pay raise? How can I, you know, maybe feign an illness or an injury, you know, perhaps get pregnant? How can I bring more money in to provide for my family? That was their career.
You see, you know what's so amazing to me is it goes back to this. Free market is God's way of teaching how to be good. Create something good that helps. The other option is cheat, steal, or defraud. I mean, has anybody, I mean, I hate to use this word because, you know, let me make, here up. Jon Stewart, this one's for free. You know, I hate to use the word evil because I know what that is. But when you have Saul Alinsky's book dedicated to Lucifer, the one rebel who caused enough trouble that got his own kingdom, that's incredible to me. Is anybody starting to see what they thought originally was just bad policies? And this isn't about Barack Obama. This has been going on since the beginning of time. Is anybody else starting to see and go, wow, this is really the battle of good and evil? Not the people, but the policies, the ideas. Michael?
Yeah, I think in this country we reward bad behavior. And I think that's just evidenced by, like, Spitzer getting his own show. And just a lot of, like, people who they look up to are, like, a lot of rappers and stuff who committed crimes, children nowadays, and I see that. Like, they're gaining popularity, and the good people are viewed as they're made fun of.
Well, who are the good people?
Religious people.
Are they? What about the guy in Atlanta? See, here's the problem. I think when you put your faith in man, he'll always disappoint you. That's what's happened to us. We have put our faith in the parties. And once we put our faith in the parties, we blindly accept and say, oh yeah, they're going to do that because they're just like me. No, they're not. No, they're not. And they'll disappoint you. That's why we have to be back with the principles and look for people who, that's honestly why I have this guy's picture on my desk, because this guy says to me, courage, courage. You stand up in the face of evil, and you do what is right even at your own expense. That doesn't happen in America. And this guy, his picture is on my desk because he teaches me the principle of love. We have to go to the principles, not necessarily to the people. Back in a second. Jill, you start us off here.
You talked about seniors and that they're retired now or whatever, about what they could offer society. And my grandparents taught me about Erich Bonhoeffer. and they remember him, they know him. We don't learn, our kids don't learn about people like
Right.
this in schools
Right.
these days. We also, I don't personally, my grandparents did, and young kids these days do not know and can imagine what can happen to this country,
Yeah,
because
they-
it
they
happened
usually-
before.
Yeah.
But we don't really realize what could truly happen.
Right. Ronald, you said that you don't think what's happening is good and evil. What do
No,
you
what I
mean?
said, I don't think good and evil explains it. I think it's smart and stupid. The fact is that people haven't learned from history. As it's been wisely said, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think that the attempt by having government provide for everybody has failed every single time, and it's failed in its conception. It sounds good in paper, but when you actually try to put it into practice, it never has worked, never will work, no matter how many times you try it. But apparently, no matter how many times it fails, people still try, but not necessarily out of an evil intention, but out of an ignorant one.
That's why I said I don't mean that the people involved are evil. I think if you look at the President of the United States, I've really come to a place where I really believe he has the best intentions. He sleeps at night and he says, this is the right thing. I'm doing good. I really believe that. I don't think he's out thinking, "Mwahaha." He's not doing that.
Because he's not a good student of history, and he hasn't learned the lessons of history.
He would argue, I would bet you, that you have history wrong. Patrick.
Your screener asked me, are you prepared for the worst? And, you know, I started to think, what is the worst that could happen? You know, what is it? I mean, some of the things I see that look like are going to happen are terrible, you know.
So what is the worst?
I'm wondering, are we at the worst point right now? We're being led by a bunch of...
Who believes we're at the worst point? So the seasons are changing.
I hope we're at the worst.
But it's going the wrong way. Let me tell you what the worst is. The worst is, where did we come from? We all agree we came from God. Where are we going? We know we're going to get to the finish line. The worst that can happen is that we get to the finish line, we get to the other side, and we then have full recollection of what it was that we were supposed to do, and we say, oh my gosh, I filled all of that space in between with nothing meaningful. We have to just find what's meaningful and pass it on to our children. Back in a minute. Dwayne just asked me if I could explain the pineapple and why it's been sitting on my desk for an hour in 10 seconds. No. No, you're going to have to wait for another episode. From New York, good night, America.